Hi everyone, my name's Anne-Marie. Welcome to this how to make a background using a rubber stamp project. Well, really it's not a project, I just want to show you how I've come to make this background. Now we're going to be using this background and one very similar that I've cut out for a project. Well, it's going to be the next project that you're going to see. But rather than me just sort of saying here's a background that I've stamped, I want to show you how I've got this effect, because it's really simple and it's just using your stamps in a little bit of a different way. Now the stamp we're going to use is from the Anna Griffin set of Sentiment rubber stamps and matching dies, and I think it's one of the most versatile sets that you could possibly have in your stash. This is just one sheet of it, and don't think about how you're looking at it, because this is on my sheet how I store them basically. I make laminated sheets and store them and then number them, etc. So the stamp we're going to be using is this particular one here, and I think it's a great way, because when you buy stamps and you look at them and you think, oh, I can only make sentiments with those, what else am I going to do with them? So it's great to be able to think that they're versatile and you can get even more value out of them. So all I've done is taken the rubber stamp from the sheet and I've put it onto a clear acrylic block. So I'm going to use a stamping mat. Now this, before you all ask, this was an embossing mat, an old embossing mat, and I've used it and used it and used it, and now I've got a new one, and it makes a great mat for your stamping underneath, because it's not too soft but it's firm enough to be able to stamp on, and it gives you a good impression. Don't worry if you haven't got something like this, you can still stamp it flat. There's no, there's no difference. It just makes it a little bit easier to use something like this, and there's lots of stamping mats available. Now I'm also going to use a piece of scrap paper, because we're going to stamp it over the edge of our card. And I've cut a piece of card into a square, and I'm just simply going to put it onto my paper. And I know it's all white and it might be difficult to see, but just go with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my stamp, as they say. Ink up my stamp. I'm using a black permanent ink, the Stays On variety. I do like the Stays On because then you can ink over it, you can watercolour, etc. And for black I always tend to use the Stays On. Okay, so now it's going to take a while to go around it, so just bear with me, but I want you to see the whole process. So I've stamped my stamp, and I'm going to start at one edge of the actual mat that we've cut, and I'm going to position the stamp in the middle, and you can see how the pattern on the stamp, it just goes in a little bit, and I want to try and get that kind of central. It doesn't have to be perfect, mine isn't perfect. So I'm going to bring the stamp down to the card, press firmly, and then we've got our first pattern. So then I'm going to turn my card around, just one turn, and then I'm going to ink up the stamp again, nice firm presses, and by the time you've watched this you'll be thinking, oh, I'm fed up of hearing her say that. Next we're going to do it again exactly the same, and to the middle of our card, to the middle of the stamp, press down, there we go, turn it round, and you can see why I've got the scrap paper underneath, because obviously I'm stamping over the edge. So stamp it again, ink it again, and then go to the middle again and press down, there we go, and turn the card again. Now you can already see how the pattern is starting to come together. And that's why I thought it was worth you actually seeing the process before you see the project. So we've inked up again, and now we can stamp again, and again through the centre, over the edge, press down. There we go. So now we've got all 4 of the sides done. Now if you remember, it's just a little bit of pattern in the corner. So what we're going to do is ink up just the corner of the stamp, and then we take the stamp to the card. I'll move that so it's clear again. So we take just this section and try and just touch the 2 patterns with the edge of the stamp, like that. And then we're going to turn it again, and we're going to do exactly the same again. There we go. And again, like that. And I know it's difficult to see because I've got my scrap paper underneath at the side. And the last one, there we go. So now we've got our pattern on our base. Now for the inside of the project, what I've done is I've simply inked around the edge and I've left it as it is. But for the outside of the project, I've simply cut away the corners and the sides. So I've gone in with my scissors and just simply followed the pattern outside of the stamping, and I've snipped just the blank area away. I'm not going to do it all, but it gives you an idea of how I've got the pattern. Just do this edge. So you just follow the line and snip that section away like that. And then I've inked it around the edge, and that's how I've got the shaped pattern background. And that is just going to make our card just jump out. Now there's one other thing that I've done for the card, and I'm going to show you on scrap paper really quickly, because I've simply stamped and then cut in half. So I've used the full stamp like this. There we go. Because you get the matching dies in the set, you can stamp and then die cut the actual shape out. So what I did was, if I can pick my paper up, I stamped the shape like that and then die cut the shape out and then cut it in half. Now there is another process that I've actually done on this, but we'll go through that on the project. But I just wanted you to see how I managed to get not only the shape but the actual embellishment as well, and get a little bit more out of it. So hopefully you'll now go on to watch the project that we use the backgrounds with, because it's such a pretty background, and I think it'll just give you a little bit of an idea. It might tell you how my mind works when I look at a stamp and think, you know what, we can do a bit more with that. So please stay tuned and watch the project coming up to see how I use these backgrounds. Thanks so much for watching, and I shall see you in a moment.